This video is brought to you by Squarespace. How's it going, guys? Vincent here from the CreativeDojo.net. Today in this video, we're going to be talking about how to create this electrical text reveal using After Effects and mostly built-in effects. Let's go and take a look at what we're going to be creating today. So as you can see, very cool. We have this really nice electrical initial bolt here, and it kind of carries through and kind of creates a general outline electricity. And then it kind of just reveals our text here. So we have some pretty nice glitching, some pretty nice electrical effects, some nice glows. There's a nice kind of grid background. I also created a second version here. This is the initial version that I did using Trapcode 3D Stroke. And this is not a requirement. We'll actually be using built-in effects this time. But as you can see, the 3D Stroke version doesn't look too different from the built-in effects version here. So let's go and take a look at what this looks like. This is the original one here. And this is just a little bit different approach. Instead of just revealing black text, we actually revealed this kind of bright white glowing text here. But again, it's essentially the same thing and it's pretty cool here. So let's go and take a look at how to create this in After Effects using built-in tools. So let's go ahead and close this composition here and go ahead and create a brand new one. So we'll go to Composition, New Composition. We'll call this Electric Text Reveal. We'll make it 1080p, we'll make it 24 frames a second, and we'll make it 5 seconds long and hit OK. Let's go and create our first text layer. So let's go to Layer, New Text, and we want to type whatever we want to reveal. So in this case, I'm going to type in electric. And for this to work, you may want to select kind of a thicker, bolder font. So I'm using the Mallet font right here. It's a pretty cool font. Very thick, and it should do pretty well for the electric reveal here. So I'm going to use this font here. I'm going to go ahead and size it up pretty large, around right here. And let's go ahead and just center this guy up. So once you have your text all set up and ready to go, we need to convert this text layer to mask because the effect that we're going to be using is going to rely on mask. So let's go ahead and select our text layer here and go to Layer and go to Convert Mask from Text. And it's going to turn off our text layer. So what we're actually seeing right now is a bunch of mask masking out a white solid here. So as you can see, let's go ahead and just enable the layer controls. You can see that it's pretty much just a white solid and it's being cut out by some mask created in After Effects. So that's very handy. Let's go ahead and rename this to main outlines. And so instead of changing the color this way, we need to actually change the color through the layer solid settings. So just something to keep in mind here. So let's go ahead and apply our first effect. We'll go to Effect and Preset, and we'll search in for the stroke effect. Now this is a 8-bit effect, so we actually will be working in 16 bits, but this won't cause too much trouble. So make sure you're going in 16 bits here. So go and just click on this. Make sure you're running in 16 bits so we get a little bit more information in the color because we will be using a lot of glows in this tutorial. So make sure you're working in 16 bits and let's go ahead and go back to our stroke effect here. And let's go select all masks so that the effect uses all the mask on the layer, not just a single mask. And we'll go ahead and uncheck stroke sequentially. And so right now you don't really see anything, and that's because it's on the original image here. So if I select the on transparent, you can see that it's gonna just pretty much have the stroke effect on transparency. If we go to reveal original image, it's going to use a stroke and reveal the original image, which is again our white solid. So this is what we actually want right here. Now what we're gonna play around with is these actual start and end properties. So as you can see, if we play around with the end, you can see that it's going to be drawing on some stuff. So let's go ahead and turn off the layer controls. We don't really need that in this tutorial actually. So let's go ahead and just play around with the start and end. As you can see, it kind of reveals our text based on the mask path. And if you go and check stroke sequentially, it's going to reveal individual masks first. So if I play around with this, because you can see it kind of starts with the E, it goes to the L, E, C, T, RIC sequentially. But in this particular case, I want to reveal everything at once, so it'll be a little bit faster. But if you want to reveal it sequentially, there's an option for that. So let's go ahead and start at the very beginning of the timeline. And we'll go ahead and we'll set a keyframe for the start and end properties. And we'll set them both to 0. And we'll hit U on the keyboard to show all the keyframes. We'll move around 4 seconds and we'll play around with the end. We'll move it all the way up to 100. And this is going to be our main outline. So essentially what this is it's going to be the main drawing outline of our text. So if you do a quick RAM preview, it's essentially just our stroke being drawn on. And this is looking pretty good. So this is gonna be a main stroke. We'll come back to this later. Let's go ahead and just duplicate this. And we will call this one blue electric. And let's go ahead and go to the layer solid settings, and we'll change this color from white to kind of like a blue color here. Something like this. Hit OK. And let's go ahead and just turn off our main outlines for now. So we'll focus just on this particular one right here. And let's go ahead and just increase the brush size to 3, so it's a little bit thicker. So right now it's the exact same thing as our outlines, and we don't want this. We want to actually create the initial, electric pulse. So we'll go U on the keyboard, we'll play around with the start and end. So right now we just pretty much have the end property animated. And what we want to do is we want to animate the start property as well, so we can kind of just trim some of this stuff. So let's go ahead and just, end right around here, and we'll increase the start to 100. And what this will do is actually create kind of a moving outline along our text. So it's not really staying in place. It's not creating a main outline. It's just kind of creating a segment that's traveling across something like this. And this is exactly what we want. We can adjust the size by kind of just shifting around the keyframes here. If you want to make it a little bit longer, just, something like this. It's a little bit longer, a little bit nicer. And we'll go ahead and select these keyframes here and just go ahead and hit Easy Ease, F9. So we'll go to Animation, Keyframe Assistant, and Easy Ease. And we'll hop into the graph editor and we'll just kind of just pull these a little bit. So just pull these. So that's a little bit faster at first. Kind of just smooths in. So let's go ahead and do a quick RAM preview. And this is about the right amount of speed here. So let's go ahead and just move on. So right now things are very, very straight, and we want to kind of mess this up to make it look a little bit more, violent, more electricity-like. So let's go ahead and apply my favorite effect here, the turbulent displace. And every single time I use this effect, I always think of the Film Riot Turbulent Displace music video, which I don't know why, but it's pretty catchy. So I'm gonna set the amount to maybe around 50, and we'll set the size to around 5. So it's a very, very tiny little displacement. So as you can see, it kind of gives you that lightning effect. And already it's starting to look more like electricity here. Something like that. And then we'll also change the complexity from 1 to 3, so we get a little bit more detail. And we'll also play around with the evolution, so we get some kind of nice flowing movement constantly. So I'm gonna hold down Alt or Option and click on the evolution stopwatch. I'm gonna type in time, asterisk, and do maybe 90. And that's just gonna add some nice flowing movement overall over time to our evolution of our turbulent displace, so it's not very static. Now lastly, I'm gonna make this layer a 3D layer, and I'll explain why in a second, but make it a 3D layer, and I'm gonna apply a quick glow effect to this electric layer here. Apply a glow effect, maybe play around with the threshold to get the color looking right. Maybe increase the radius a little bit. Something like that. And that's pretty good. So we'll keep it at that. Let's go ahead and duplicate this layer, Control Command D, and we'll call this one green electric. And we'll go into the solid settings again, and we'll go ahead and just kind of pick kind of a green or kind of bright teal kind of color here, just to add a little bit more variation. Hit OK. And we'll go into the stroke size, maybe change it to 2.5. The goal here is to pretty much add some variation. So we'll go to turbulent displace, change the turbulent displace amount to 60, change the size to maybe like 3.5 or so, and complexity to 5, and maybe play around with the threshold a little bit. And then hit F4 if you don't see the modes, and change the transfer mode from normal to add. So we want to add all these electricity bolts to our main outlines here. And then go hit U on the keyboard to show the keyframes for the green electric layer. And I want to go ahead and just kind of play around with these keyframes. Maybe we can just move it forward just very, very, very slightly. Maybe just change this over here, and maybe just shift this over here. So we just get some variation in movement here. I want to go back to the blue layer and just go ahead and decrease the blue to something like this. Let's go ahead and duplicate it one more time. We'll call this purple electric, just to kind of give it a little bit more warmth. And we'll go to solid settings and we'll go and kind of pick this dark violet kind of pink color. Hit OK. I'm going to solo it real quick just to kind of see what we have here. And we want to play around with the glow threshold, something like that. And we'll go ahead and just change this up once again. Brush size, maybe at 3.2. And turbulent displace, maybe size to 4.5. Displacement, maybe let's go 65. And complexity down to 4.2. And these are just random numbers I'm coming up with just to kind of randomize all this stuff. We'll unsolo it. And it's looking kind of bad. So let's go ahead and just play around with the threshold a little bit. And maybe rearrange the order or something like that. So we get a little bit different look. Let me just play around with this. So we get something like this, kind of a nice electric pulse. And you really want to just go around and play with the glow amount because that's really going to give you that nice hot look, that kind of glowing, intense look. Because once you play around with the additive modes and blending modes, things get a little bit different. So you want to go in here and just kind of tweak some of this stuff and really make it look kind of intense. And then we'll enable our main outlines again. And for this, let's go ahead and apply a turbulent displace for this because it's looking a little bit too perfect. And again, we'll set the size to maybe around like 5, the amount down to maybe like 10. So it's very, very, very subtle. And we'll change this color to kind of like a blue color as well, you know, something like that. And we'll hit OK. So now let's go ahead and create our quick background. So I'm going to go create a new solid layer and we'll call this BG. You know, we'll just make it black for our generic purposes. And we'll go and place it underneath everything. And we'll go to the ramp effect. If you're using CC and above, it's going to be called gradient ramp. But if you're using a version CS6 or below, it's actually called ramp. So we'll apply it on there. And let's go ahead and change the ramp shape from linear to radial ramp. And we'll set the start color to kind of like this dark blue color. And then the end color to kind of like a really dark red. And I'm kind of experimenting with this kind of a little bit. So kind of like a deep, subtle red. Kind of reminds me of Fast and Furious kind of colors. Kind of police siren lights. So we'll just adjust the points a little bit. So it's kind of like this vignette. And as you can see, we're getting a lot of banding here. And we can actually decrease that by just really cranking up the ramp scatter. So 502. And that's really going to give you, break up that gradient to give you more smooth transition and gradient colors. So, and this is one of the reasons why we're using 16 bits for more color depth. So now that we have that set up, let's go ahead and apply a quick glow to the main outlines here. And just kind of tweak the threshold to really change the color of the glow and kind of just tweak around with the intensities. Let's go ahead and create a new adjustment layer. And we will call this one highlight glow. We'll duplicate it. And we'll call this one streaks. So basically what we want to do is we want to create essentially a nice horizontal streak at the very, very highlights of this thing. So I'm going to apply a quick glow to the streaks adjustment layer. And you really want to increase the threshold so that only the very, very bright areas are going to be affected by this glow. And I want to go ahead and change the glow dimension from horizontal and vertical to horizontal. And really increase the radius here. And you're going to see we get this really nice horizontal glow. But right now it's happening pretty much all over the text. We only want it to happen in the very bright areas. So I'm just going to adjust the threshold to about 100. So only the very, very bright areas are going to get that nice streak. And we'll just play around with the radius until we get something that looks pretty cool. Kind of that nice anamorphic look, and just kind of play around with the intensity. Maybe 0.75. And then we'll go to the highlight glow and apply a glow once again. And this will be an overall glow. So we'll just increase the radius to maybe like 15 and decrease the intensity to like 0.5. So just a very subtle but nice kind of pop glow. Next, I'm going to create a quick grid. So I'm going to type grid, search for the grid effect under generate, apply it, and we'll change the size from to width slider so everything's nice and uniform. We'll change the width to maybe around 90 or so. I think this is a good size here. We'll change the border from 5 to 1, so it's a very nice thin stroke. Change the opacity to 50. and just place it underneath our strokes here, or our grit outlines, and maybe just tone down the opacity to maybe like 10% or maybe 15%, something very, very subtle, and change the color from white to kind of like a dark blue, so it kind of just blends in a little bit nicer. Essentially what we have now is a nice electrical reveal. I'm gonna do a quick RAM preview. So as you can see, it's looking pretty good. We have our initial kind of pulsing electricity going on and some nice streaks going on. But as you can see, we forgot to play around with the curve editor for the main outline, so it's kind of like lagging behind here. Let's go ahead and go to the main outlines, hit U on the keyboard, and and right around here, we want to make sure that everything's pretty much finished. So let's go ahead and delete this. We don't need this. We'll select our end keyframes, hit F9 on the keyboard, or go to animation, keyframe assistant, and easy ease. And we'll just kind of drag this handle a little bit so that things are kind of done when the electricity pulse goes through. So we just kind of scrub through this. So from here, you can pretty much do anything you want. For an example, you can fade in an actual text layer to kind of fill in the gaps. Right now, this is just the outlines of a text, but you can, fade in your own logo or fade in the actual text layer, fade these out, so you're actually seeing the actual logo or actual text layer. You can do a lot more, like the example that I did previously where I kind of revealed my white actual text logo. So before we move on, I'm going to go ahead and give a quick thanks to our sponsors over at Squarespace for making this video possible today. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional online website, store, or portfolio. They have over 20 highly customizable and professionally designed templates. With their click and drag interface, adding content is a breeze. And starting at just $8 a month, you can get a free domain name if you sign up for a year. You can start your free trial of Squarespace by going to squarespace.com. Now when you do decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the promo code DOJO to get 10% off your order and support the dojo. Squarespace, everything you need to create an exceptional website. So there's a lot you can do, but from here on out, it's pretty much just fine tuning and tweaking. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new adjustment layer for our vignette. And we'll call this vignette. And we'll go to the effects and presets and we'll search in curves and apply it to the adjustment layer. And I'm just going to decrease the general brightness. And we'll get the mask tool here, the elliptical mask. And hold down the shift key, you can actually draw a nice perfect mask. And just center it up here around this size. And then just hit F on the keyboard and just feather this guy out. So let's say 450 pixels. Hit MM and go ahead and subtract the mask. So it's kind of like this subtle vignette. And we can just increase this a little bit. And then we can actually create one last adjustment layer. And we'll call this CC. And we'll do our color correction and our grading in this. So we'll apply a curves effect. And then we'll apply a tint effect. And let's go ahead and just disable the tint for now. And let's go ahead and just add a little bit of brightness and contrast. And then maybe we can go to the red and maybe just play around, increase the red in the shadows and just kind of create this arch. And then maybe go to the green and just increase the green a little bit and decrease it in the shadows. And then play around with the blue, maybe increase it overall and just kind of, essentially just play around with it. Can't really do much in this particular case just because it's pretty much a dark blue kind of feel to it. So just kind of, play around, experiment. Now, if you have magic bullet looks, I highly recommend just going in there and just kind of experimenting with the looks and just kind of flicking through them and just seeing some of the possibilities to kind of give you ideas on what to do. So I'm just going to leave it like at that and just turn on the tint and maybe change it to 15%, just kind of decrease the saturation a little bit. So this is the before and this is the after, kind of subtle, but kind of gives it that more polished look. And I'm just going to go and just maybe increase the shadows just a little bit. Something like that. So for the finishing touches and what I did in the actual preview example, I'm going to be using my Dojo Glitch version 2 script, which just came out today over at CreativeDojo.net, so go and check it out. It's a free script which will allow you to kind of create these really cool glitches, artifacts, and distortion in After Effects. Again, it's a free script, so not really third-party paid plugin here. But go and check that out. I'll be using that in this particular case to kind of give it that finishing touch. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag this comp into a new comp. And we'll call this existing comp Electric Text Glitch Final. And I'm going to go ahead and launch my Dojo Glitch script from the window menu. And this is what Dojo Glitch looks like. It's very, very simple. So just go ahead and select the composition and hit Generate Glitch. And it's going to automatically create the glitching rig for you. Go ahead and close that up. So now we have a glitch controller. Let's just scrub through this here. So it's going to be this really nice RGB split chromatic aberration look. Very cool. I'm going to set the master glitch amount from 10 to maybe like 2. So we have very, very subtle glitching. And I'm going to increase the artifact brightness to, let's see here. Just crank it up. So as you can see, it creates some pretty cool glitching artifact. I'm going to say keep it at 45. And then we can go to the lens distortion amount and really crank this up. And this is going to really give you that nice warping tunnel grid look that was in the preview demonstration here. And this is pretty much just a CC lens effect. So if you don't want to use the Dojo Glitch script, just apply a CC lens effect and you'll get this nice distortion look. And we'll go into the artifact settings and maybe just increase the artifact displacement in X to 60 to 80. Maybe 70 here. And artifact speed, let's take it to 60. And maybe we'll apply some flickering. Actually, maybe we'll skip on the flickering. So we just have this nice kind of crazy artifact, distorted look. And you can actually create the distortion using a noise map and using the displacement map effect. So again, I'm giving you guys examples on what you can do if you do not want to use my Dojo Glitch script. So just in case you want to do it all in-house here. So what we forgot to do is actually create some basic camera movements. So I'm going to go ahead and make the grid layer 3D as well. Make sure all of our electric stuff is 3D. Go ahead and create a new camera. And we'll set a pretty wide angle lens, so maybe 24 millimeters. Hit OK. And we'll call this camera. And we'll just, do a very, very basic zoom. So hit P on the keyboard, click a keyframe for the position, and we'll move it to the very, very end. And we'll just kind of zoom in a little bit. So it's a very simple move. It kind of gives it that subtle movement. So now we have this basic camera move. And then using my Dojo toolkit script. Again, this is also another one of my free scripts, which you can get over at CreativeDojo.net. And I'm just going to apply a quick letterbox and kind of give that cinematic effect, kind of focused effect. And I'm also going to apply a grain layer. So let's close that up. And the grain layer here is pretty much going to give you a more finished, kind of organic look to our whole animation. Make it look less smooth and less CG and less perfect. It's also going to be breaking up the remaining bandings that we may have in this animation here. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of decrease the intensity to 0.12 and maybe decrease the size to 0.45. So it's very, very subtle. It'll give you kind of that nice finish look. And you can do a lot more here. You can add some optical flares. You can do, depth of field, blurs, anything you want. But essentially, this is how you create the glitching effect here. Let me do a quick RAM preview. So as you can see, it's a very, very nice effect. We have that nice distortion. We have that nice initial hot pulsing streak of electricity going through. We have some nice artifact going through. It's looking a lot more organic, a lot more interesting and, data-like. And I think it's a very, very cool effect. Very easy to do using the built-in tools within After Effects. If you have 3D stroke, I highly recommend you use that because it's fully integrated in 3D. It has a very interesting taper effect as well. So if you have 3D stroke from Trapcode, definitely use that. But this is a nice way of doing it. Using After Effects. Very, very cool, very handy effect. So that's pretty much it for this tutorial, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions, comments, or feedback, feel free to let me know in the comments down below or in the article down below. But my name is Vincent Wynn from the CreativeDojo.net. I'll see you guys next time.